Hi, and welcome to the Law Simplified. I'm Shaveen Bandadnayaka. There are a number of techniques that students use to prepare, retain, and apply the law that they've studied throughout their course of study. These techniques that have been utilized are not unique to simply law students, but they're common among any other type of student, anyone who's preparing for an examination. However, having spoken to both Masterclass, Fast Track, as well as students that I've encountered over the past 6 years on YouTube as well as other platforms that the Law Simplified is distributed on, what I've come to realize is that while students are well aware of these tried and tested methods, it's clear that they don't have a complete grasp of how to utilize them, and therefore they are not being used appropriately. In this series of videos, I'll try to dispel certain fundamental misconceptions you might have about using these techniques, as well as how you can best leverage these techniques to achieve results that go above and beyond. In this video, we will have a fundamental look at how to properly utilize highlighting. Now, as simple as it may seem, and you might have used this technique throughout your tertiary education as well as your higher education now, the simpler it is, the more complicated it can get to properly utilize it. What I mean by this is oftentimes I have seen two extremes of highlighting. I have seen, on the one hand, some students tend to look at the material in textbooks and other material provided by the universities and institutions and immediately get overwhelmed with what they're supposed to remember and what they're not supposed to remember, or what is not necessary for that matter. And the often memed version of the highlighting process is where you'd see a student basically highlighting everything that they see on the page, making the process of highlighting itself redundant. The other extreme is to be quite sparse with your highlighting. You look at a body of text, a certain number of materials that you're presented with, and you highlight only one or two elements of it, which essentially doesn't give you the bigger picture. The very first thing that I would like to instill upon you and impress upon you is that before you even begin highlighting, you need to understand the fundamental rules governing highlighting itself. Firstly, understand how important color coding is. Now, you might not take this as being as important, or it might seem redundant to you at first. But as you proceed with your studies and implementing advanced techniques of highlighting, you will understand how important color coding is. In essence, the process of color coding is to first identify the type of information presented in your subject matter, and then assigning a specific color in terms of highlighting for that subject matter. For example, if you're a law student and you receive material in terms of theory or core textbooks, as well as case summaries and case law associated with it, you might essentially have three particular color codes. On the one hand, you will have one color for principles of the law. You have another color for the actual case that establishes that principle. You might have a complete third color for opinions or arguments presented by academics or jurists. Once you have this core principle in mind, you must maintain this color coding process throughout. By doing this, you achieve two objectives. On the one hand, at the time that you are going to revise the material that you've studied, a simple overview of it would give you a quantifiable view of what the relevant information that you might need to absorb in that particular topic or section would be. On the other hand, it makes the job far less complicated when it comes to summarizing the material that you have studied. Now, on a number of videos on this very channel, I've indicated different techniques of absorbing the material, which you can check out through different playlists available on this channel, including how to ace a law exam, which I highly recommend. Another quite relevant technique of highlighting that you need to implement is to not overburden the material that you're highlighting. What I mean by this is never highlight on the first round. Always provide an opportunity for your brain to absorb that which you have read, and then on the second round, implement the process of highlighting. A common mistake that many students make in terms of highlighting is to think of the process of highlighting itself in the first instance. The actual way to properly use highlighting is to use it on the second round to make sure that you essentially quote unquote highlight the most important elements that you've already read. That being said, there is a lot of effort that has to go into the absorption process at this stage. Never approach the study of law or any other subject half-heartedly. You have to provide the relevant focus and appreciate the requirement of the subject before you even jump into opening up the textbook. Right, this was a very quick video in a series of videos targeting study techniques. These are applicable not just for law students, but students of any caliber for that matter. Highlighting is a very important technique in your arsenal or repertoire of tools to help you study and achieve the goal that you set for yourself in your academics. But when used inappropriately, it can hinder as opposed to help your course of study. But until the next time that we meet, have fun, stay safe, and as always, obey the law.